Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Greasus Goldtooth. So Greasus starts his campaign over at Karak Krakaton, and is ready to attack the Great Hall of Greasus on turn 1, which is a little bit weird, because this settlement here bears your name, but it's not your capital. When you capture the settlement here, the capital status doesn't transfer over, so it's just a little bit weird. Your earliest challenge in this campaign is most likely going to be Helm and Gorst. The big thing to watch out for here are the Mortis engines. You either want to shoot those units, or you want Greasus to go into melee with it, which brings us into the first real problem with this campaign, is Greasus Goldtooth. He himself is a very boring legendary lord to use on the battlefield, largely because he's big and he's slow. He doesn't have a whole lot of speed, which makes it difficult for him, which is not a versatile character. He's got one purpose, which is to fight large and dual creatures, a single entity specifically. He's got a lot of weapon strength, a lot of melee attack, but he's slow, so if he gets into a bog, it's kind of hard for him to get out. And if a lord has any kind of speed, they can just avoid him. And he's not good sitting around fighting infantry, because he just doesn't rack up that many kills quickly. He needs to be fighting large single entities. And if those, like I said, if those single entities don't want to fight him, he can't really do much about it. He doesn't have particularly good abilities on the battlefield, but he's got some okay stuff on the campaign map. So increasing camp growth and increasing camp limits, that stuff is alright. But as far as legendary lords are concerned, I feel like Greasus Goldtooth is one of the most boring legendary lords in the game currently, just in terms of what he can actually do, which is just not that much. So it's a bit of a shame. He's not a versatile character. Now, in terms of other things that Greasus brings to the table, when playing as his faction, you get access to 20 extra relations with Ogre Kingdoms, which is okay. It's not fantastic. Income from trade tariffs plus 50%. And that might seem like a lot of money, but trade tariffs are oftentimes the least lucrative part of a trade agreement. This might only equal about 2 or 3 gold per trade agreement in the early stages of the campaign. Once you own half the map, yeah, that income from trade tariffs might be worth a fair bit, but at that point you should be so rich that it doesn't matter anymore. So it's just not very useful. And then unit mass plus 25%, that's okay. But all of that stuff there is mostly just number increasing. It doesn't provide any sort of mechanical difference. His campaign doesn't really differ that much from Scrag's, apart from just a massive different starting location. That's the big difference between them. Now, talking about the Ogre Kingdom playstyle, talking about the things that are the same across all Ogre Kingdom factions, let's firstly talk about the great stuff, which is the camps. Camps are, in my opinion, one of the best mechanics in the game. I really enjoy them because it essentially allows you to build your own cities. You can build them anywhere you want, in enemy territory or your own, but you can't build them too close to another camp or too close to another city. You can only have one camp in one region, so you can't put like a camp on this side over here and on this side. You're only one camp per region. So it's possible for you to build 554 camps in the game. Now, camps are more valuable than your regular settlements because they can be better defended. You can actually manage the garrisons yourself. They've got reduced upkeep costs for them, and oftentimes will make more money than what the garrison will cost. That's where you're going to get your best recruitment from. It's where all your best heroes increase their capacity. Camps is a really good mechanic, and there's a recent change over here in the tech tree that allows you to increase your camp limit every time one of your camps reaches level 5. So I personally really enjoy the way that camps work. It's a versatile mechanic if you know what you're doing. See, what I do is I have some camps as permanent, basically cities, and they get to tier 5, and that's where I build my cities. And other camps I have as like mobile camps. I'll pop it down at the end of Greasus' turn, for example, to allow him replenishment, any recruiting that we might need, get his food sorted, and then next turn I'll pack up that camp and just keep moving and just pop it down in another area. It costs me 2,000 gold each time I want to do that, but it's not that big of a deal because I feel like the Ogre Kingdoms are a fairly rich race if you know what you're doing. So I really like the camp mechanic. It's something that you are definitely rewarded for trying out different things with, so it's a very good mechanic in my opinion. It's kind of a shame you don't get any on turn 1, but you get your first camp very early on. So the next thing I want to talk about is meat. All of your armies eat meat, and each unit in your army will require 1 meat per turn, regardless of what unit it is. So a Stonehorn will eat a meat, and an Ogre Bull will eat a meat. Same thing with a Noblar. Now, if you end your turn in friendly territory, you usually get 10 food, so this will pay for this army here, but since you can get a full stack of 20, big armies will need camps in order to get their meat supply up. Because if you're within the radius of a camp, you don't consume any meat whatsoever, and you get added to that. You get to add to the meat supply. You can also spend your meat with an offer to the Great Maw, with some good bonuses that'll last 10 turns, but you can only have one of them active at a time. Overall, meat is an okay mechanic. It's something that you need to keep an eye on. Mainly, don't let it go to 0, because then you'll start taking attrition. And I think the upper limit to which you can hold is 300 per army. And as the campaign progresses with technologies and stuff, it's usually fairly easy to keep your meat under control. And then the next thing that the Ogre Kingdoms have is contracts. Now, this is the most forgettable mechanic in the game. Contracts will show up once every 10 turns, and oftentimes these contracts are so inconvenient that they're just worth ignoring. And oftentimes the rewards are so pitiful that it's just a very forgettable mechanic. Every faction in this game has access to missions, and that's all this is. It just gives you a mission, something like, kill this character, take this settlement. And oftentimes it's just not worth doing. And you are given 3 choices, and when you select a contract, it never expires, but it's just a very forgettable mechanic. Now, in the tech tree here, you do get some stuff that improves the mechanics over time, but typically speaking, this is a crap mechanic that really needs a rework. There are other factions that have a contract mechanic that are just way better than what the Ogre Kingdoms get. For example, Alithana, who we've covered before. So that's the Ogre Kingdoms in a nutshell there. Overall, it's hard to recommend this campaign. You really have to decide whether or not that the Ogre Kingdoms is for you. There's some good elements to it, there's some bad elements to them. I personally enjoy them, but this is not a faction for everyone. Like I said, Greasus Goldtooth is definitely a boring legendary lord, but I do enjoy personally playing Ogre Kingdoms. In terms of optimal difficulty, I'd probably play this on hard difficulty for the optimal enjoyment, but you can play it on any difficulty just fine. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think, which legendary lord you want me to cover next. Appreciate you. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.